Brought to you from Melbourne, Australia. This is the Badminton Podcast, a community for badminton players by badminton players, where we talk badminton, celebrate local heroes, interview players from all walks of life, and push you to grow as a player and a person. Introducing your hosts, Jeff and Henry.
Hello, badminton community, and welcome to another episode of the Badminton Podcast. For those listeners who have listened to our episodes before, or if you're a first time listening, we just want to say thanks for tuning in, and we're excited to bring you yet another episode. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Volant. My name's Jeff.
And I'm Henry.
We're the co-founders of Volant, the brand that gives badminton players an alternative to the unsightly conventional badminton wear so that they can feel confident and stylish anywhere. We're also here to bring the badminton community together so that we can all share the love of the sport together. We can share each other's stories, tips, tricks, and experiences so that we can really show the world how incredible badminton is as a group and as a badminton family. So make sure you do check us out and shop at our website, www.volantwear.com. There are also lots of free resources out there that can help you both in your career, in your life, as well as your badminton game. You can also follow us on our social media. Our handle is at Volantwear, VOLANTWEAR.
Our next guest is Vinson Chiu. He's a student athlete who's taking a gap year from the University of California, Berkeley to train and compete in pro badminton in hopes to qualify for the 2020, now 2021 Olympics. He is currently ranked 61 in the world for mixed doubles and is the current national champion in the US for mixed doubles.
When I came home, I was just like praising almost everything I had, basically. You know, every Thanksgiving we're told to be appreciative and say thanks to what we have, but not many people will actually truly feel the gratefulness until they have it taken away from them. And so that was something that traveling for badminton has taught me. I can really see on a deeper level and appreciate on a deeper level. And I think it's made my life much more enjoyable. If I hadn't traveled for badminton, I would not have reached that deeper level of understanding.
Aside from badminton, Vincent also enjoys playing other sports, including golf, basketball, and volleyball. His fun fact is that he was always the one and only Asian guy in his class up until high school. Welcome onto the show, Vincent.
Thank you guys for having me.
That's a funny story, Vincent. That was the same with me because I grew up in a country town and I was, always the only Asian guy in my year level as well. So it's always funny because you're always growing up around the locals and badminton's not really a popular sport amongst the locals, generally speaking. So I think I'm in a similar situation to you.
Yeah, it's honestly not as bad as it seems or as it sounds, but I had a pretty fun childhood being the only Asian guy because I can make a lot of jokes that they feel uncomfortable making themselves. And I became sort of the class clown from there. And so it always had a lot of my friends rolling with laughter, or just a lot of unique situations that only I could go through. So
awesome. So Vincent, what we're going to do to start this podcast off, just for a little bit of fun, is just ask you some quick fire questions and you just got to answer with the first thing that comes to your mind when we ask the question. How's that sound?
Yep, sounds good.
Oh, good. So I'll get started. The first question is, what song is a must for you when you're singing at karaoke?
Ooh, a must. I would probably say Chandelier. Because
Chandelier.
Yeah. Can we have a sample? Can we have a sample track?
Oh, no, we definitely should not have a sample. But I think the reason why I choose that is because every time I go karaoke with my friends and I choose that song, it's just so funny to watch them try to hit the high notes with me. And I can't do it myself either, but it's just kind of a fun thing to see your friends failing at such a embarrassing song.
That's fantastic.
Okay, I was waiting for Aerosmith. That's the standard for me, Aerosmith.
Okay, moving on. Pancakes or waffles?
I'd probably go with pancakes because I didn't really grow up eating waffles that much, and IHOP is.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You guys have IHOP too, right?
No, we don't.
No.
We don't.
Oh, okay.
We don't. But yeah.
Yeah. IHOP's been a big part of my childhood.
Okay, I've been there, but we don't have it here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Ketchup or mustard?
I think when I eat a hot dog, I need to have both. But overall, I think ketchup is a little more versatile.
Sure.
Yeah. Agreed. I don't really do mustard unless it's on a hot dog. So ketchup is the way to go. Okay, so how about Marvel versus DC?
Marvel for sure. I'm a huge Marvel fan. Like I rewatched all the Marvel movies before Endgame just to like hype up Endgame even more for me. And then in theaters, I watched Endgame like maybe 6 times before it went out of theaters.
What?
Yeah. All with different groups.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you watch them in order, like in chronological order or in release order?
I watched it in release order.
Okay.
Yeah. It started off with the first Iron Man. And so.
Mm-hmm. Can you just name them? Because I don't know the order of them. Do you actually know the order off by heart because you're a diehard fan?
I don't think I know the order, but I just had to rewatch all of them maybe 4 months before Endgame actually came out.
Yeah.
And I kind of set myself up for that excitement.
And it lasted 6 viewings in the theaters.
Yeah.
Was the excitement still there from on the 6th view?
Oh, for sure. I think I teared up in every single one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next question. If you receive a gift or a present that you don't like, what do you do with it?
Ooh.
Gonna make some enemies here.
I think most of the gifts that I get are very personal. There are rarely any times where someone gives a very generic gift, but when that does happen, I would say that I kind of just give it away to someone else.
So you re-gift.
Yeah.
Re-gift. That's good. Sustainability, right?
Yeah, I feel bad doing it.
Yeah, I feel bad as well, but it's just like, oh yeah, sustainable gifts.
Yeah.
It's all about sustainability, right?
You're giving it to someone who might actually like it, though.
Yeah.
There's a positive.
Sharing the happiness.
Sharing the love, yeah.
Okay, so final question. 3 things you don't travel without.
3 things. One of them has to be, it's like a fluff ball that is used to like hit against the wall for badminton. Because
fluff ball?
Yeah.
What is this?
How do you hit that against the wall?
Yeah, it's specifically made actually for like badminton. And it's like a Canadian brand. I don't know exactly what it's called because I got it a while ago.
Sure, they call it a birdie, right? So it's probably just called a birdie. A birdie.
Yeah. But the problem with, I used to, when I traveled last year for tournaments, I would hit the wall in my hotel room with a badminton birdie. And I think 1 or 2 times the next door neighbor would knock on my door and be like, it's a little bit noisy. It's too loud. Can you stop doing that? And so the fluff ball.
Aren't they like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think most of them know because the tournament hotel is like filled with badminton players. But yeah, they're like, this is so unusual. I've never experienced this. Can you please stop doing that? And so the fluff ball really reduces the sound so I can just keep doing it. And honestly, it mimics a shuttle really closely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does it spin off the wall or is it kind of just straight line? Because you know how sometimes you're hitting against the wall with the shuttle and it depends on the type of shuttle and I think how it's weighted in the cork. Some of the shuttles spin so much and it's so hard to hit against the wall and some of them come back quite straight. Do you experience that?
Oh, right. That's another good thing about the fluff ball, that it won't go off course randomly. Yep. So you can just keep going for as long as you can. Yep.
So that's number 1, your fluff ball.
Yeah, 1 fluff ball. 2, I would say, is my foam roller because when I'm playing really long matches or just even after an intense training session, the foam roller really saves my life. It gets me going back to it the next day. And I've experienced training without my foam roller and I would stay sore for multiple days on end. And for my last, I would say my necklace. I think I'm very, what's the word? Superstitious. Yeah, superstitious. There you go. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like when I'm in some of these crazy countries, when I'm traveling by car or by airplane, I feel like honestly I'm in danger. And so my necklace was always something that gave me a little sense of security and kind of having the presence of my mom who bought it for me and my girlfriend who I bought this necklace from, like her store. That combination, I felt like they're always with me when I'm traveling. And so that gives me a sense of security, and it always calms me down when I'm panicking or being paranoid.
So what's the necklace? Does it have something in it especially, or is it more just the meaning of the necklace itself?
The necklace is just a Christian cross, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily like a devout Christian, but I'm just kind of wearing this as a symbol of my own, of what I believe in. And it kind of aligns closely with Christianity. So yeah, it's a cross. It's just like a plain silver cross.
Yeah, okay. So are you wearing this necklace while you play as well? Are there any issues when you play wearing that necklace?
Most likely, or most of the time, it doesn't affect me. It depends on the shirt I wear, honestly, because if my shirt has too wide of a U neck, it will hit me in the face sometimes when I'm jump smashing or when I'm just in the back. And you can actually see my necklace in my BWF profile picture. It was a really well-timed shot by the photographer because like I rarely get to see what it looks like when I'm playing.
Is it just hitting you in the face?
Surprisingly, no. It's resting on my chest. So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's jump into the badminton side of things. So Vincent, can you tell us about your badminton story, how you got started and how you got to where you are today? Let's hear it.
Yeah. So I started playing when I was actually 3 years old. It was mainly because my mom went to the local badminton club to play recreationally. Like she never played anything professional. She would play with her friends. And since she's a single parent, she also brought me along in like a little stroller. And I would sit courtside next to her and just like fall asleep or sometimes watch her play. And by the time I felt comfortable enough to grab a racket, I started hitting with like my mom and some of her friends. And that's kind of how it all started. I didn't start training until I was around 8 or 9 at the same exact club. And it was so tiring. It was nothing like how I would play recreationally. Like the training itself, I remember day one, I hid in the restroom after the first, physical session. And I was like panting so hard, I thought I was going to die. And so that was a real game changer for me. That I was like, wow, this can actually be really, really intense. And so ever since then, I started training at a different club after maybe 3 or 4 years. And this club that I now train at still is run by Tony Gunawan, who's the, for those of you who don't know, Tony is a Olympic gold medalist in men's doubles. And he also has won 2 world championship titles with 2 different partners. And the crazy thing about the second time was it was the first time the US has ever won a world championship medal in anything or in badminton related. And especially that year it was in the US. And so it was just such an exciting match. And obviously from a biased point of view, I think he's one of the greatest men's doubles players of all time. And
I agree.
I owe a lot of my own success so far to Tony. Yeah, that was a quick little plug for Tony.
And good work from Howard as well for winning the final with Tony.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every time Tony talks about it, he says Howard played insanely well the whole entire tournament. And it surprised Tony too, because Howard is usually just a back player. But during the finals, with the hype of the home crowd cheering and it being a very historical event, he just played out of his mind, both in the front and the back. And his serves were, they were commented to be a little shaky, but that day he was just on point on everything. And so, yeah, it definitely takes both of them to win and make history for the US.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly sounds like Howard showed up. Anyway, continue, Vincent, on your journey.
But yeah, it wasn't until 2018 that I started to try to pursue a professional career in badminton. This was already after my junior days. And the whole 2019, I went to about 17 different countries to play international tournaments sanctioned by BWF. And I learned so much. And, looking back at it, I should have started sooner. I should have never stopped training full time after high school. And now I'm currently, like you introduced in the bio, I'm taking a gap year from my university right now, trying to train full time. But it's a little hard right now with the quarantine going on.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate timing that you decided to take a gap year during COVID.
Yeah.
Vincent, you should have thought about that earlier.
Oh yeah, I should have seen it coming.
So now, I guess now that you're taking your gap year, what was the intention to taking your gap year? We know that you wanted to qualify for the Olympics. Is there anything else that you're vying for by taking this gap year?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I thought about whether it was worth it or not to just take a gap year solely for badminton. And there were a lot of other reasons that pushed me to make the final decision, such as I didn't know exactly what I wanted to major in college. And so taking this gap year can also give me more time instead of trying to force something that I might not want to study. Also, I wasn't doing too well in university because I felt like I was always focused on something else. When I was doing work, I would always focus on the open gym coming up, like that next day for badminton. I felt like I missed badminton so much. I missed the junior days. I missed the competitive scene. I felt like I just couldn't focus on anything. I felt like I hated what I did, no matter what subject it was. And I had to get back on the court. I verified that myself, because every time I would go play badminton in college, I felt myself again. I felt energized. The next following days from that badminton session alone can brighten my mood so much. And so I kind of took these as signs to maybe I need to take a break from school right now. Maybe school is not the best thing to do for me, even though a lot of people will say, and a lot of people have told me, to try to finish school first before you pursue anything more for badminton.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like you do have such a strong passion and even a love for the sport, just like Jeff and I do. And you talked about some of the reasons why you feel that badminton is so important to you, like being energized and being yourself and not having your mind focus on anything else other than the sport. Is there something, I guess, deeper like that for you is the reason why you love playing?
I do want to preface this by saying I'm not really looking for any like pity or sad. I don't want like a sob story out of me, but this is kind of just to give an idea of how much it really means to me and why badminton out of all sports. So growing up with a single parent, as my mom being the only one to take care of two children, I felt like I had a pretty broken family because my dad and my mom would always argue through the phone. My mom and my sister would argue a lot about different things. And the only person that my mom wasn't arguing with in her whole life was me. And so I felt like I was almost a therapist, even at the age of like 11 or 12, just to listen to the problems that my mom would vent to me. And there's a saying where like therapists themselves need therapists. And for me, it was hard to like just take all the crap that my mom was going through and seeing her in tears every single day. I had a lot of pent up frustration and like sadness that I didn't really know how to release when I was at home. And so I begged my mom to just, after school, can you just please send me to practice? And then we'll come back home. We'll talk about anything. But I just want to have the opportunity to practice every single day. And we reached the compromise where I can go to practice every day. And so on court, I would kind of just release all that frustration and anger and sadness. So in a way, badminton took care of my mental health that way. And so I think with anything that takes care of you, you naturally grow a love and a bond with that, whatever it may be. And so for me, it was badminton.
Wow, Vincent, that's really touching. That's really deep. And I'm sure that your mum and your whole family appreciates how much that you've done for your family. And even from a young age, you were called to that action. You're called to take something on that maybe you weren't ready for it, but you knew you had to take it on anyway. And so thanks so much for sharing that with us. That's amazing what you did. And I'm sure that your mother is extremely grateful and proud of the son that you are right now. So well done on being that person and being that great person that's supported her and her family and your family, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like, I think my mom and I's relationship has grown for the better because of everything that's happened. So I think it's a blessing in disguise. And also it made me a better badminton player.
Absolutely. Now, when you say that you went back onto the court and you just wanted that daily release and that badminton therapy, if you want to actually call it that. What was it about badminton training that helped you? Was it more, you said you went there and you released your frustrations. Was it more, hey, I'm going to go out and just physically just punish myself? Not punish, but just physically work so hard because it's just, you just want to let it all out? Or is it more about having fun and being relaxed and not having to worry? Is it more like playful? What was it that gave you that release and that benefit from badminton training?
I think it's definitely the former, where you talked about the physical tiredness that comes with, multi-shuttle drills. And for me, I think as a kid, it was really fast for me to get physically exhausted. And it's really hard for me to be both exhausted and angry at the same time. Mm-hmm. I feel like without the energy to be angry, I don't even have the energy to think about sad thoughts. Instead, I just am glad I'm existing and I'm breathing after like a really heavy session on court.
Yeah.
And so I think, honestly, it's a little bit of both, because I was having fun when I hit like a good shot and, all my friends were like, oh, wow, what a good shot. It would make me feel a lot better about myself as well. Yeah. In just so many ways, it would be, like you said, very therapeutic for me. And that's, I guess, the deeper reason why I love badminton so much.
Absolutely. And that is really deep. And it's definitely deeper than we go, or a lot of people have actually gone when we ask that question, because usually it's just more about the sport and how it's fun and how it basically incorporates so many things like physical fitness, speed, power, agility, skill, etc. But then this is definitely a deeper why and a deeper meaning behind it. So, Vincent, would you say that, I know you've got all these aspirations and you have your goals set on the Olympic Games. You want to be the best player that you can be. You want to be competitive, winning on the world stage, not just in the US, and just really break through that barrier, if you want to call it a barrier, for countries like the US, the countries like Australia, like Howard and Tony did it for the US, but just trying to make it more of a mainstream belief that, hey, we can be amazing at badminton and world class at badminton. Would you say that the goals that you've set for yourself, are they derived, or do they come from your own willpower or drive, or is it more about that deeper meaning of badminton for you? Because badminton means so much to you and to your mum, of course, I'm sure. Then do you find that comes through in your goals and your motivations as to why you want to be that amazing top class world player?
For sure. I strongly believe that I have what it takes to become, top 20, top 30. Like you said, break the barrier of the outside may think about USA badminton. And I just feel like I need to push myself to just break through that barrier. And my mom really, really loves watching badminton professionally. Like, she would always stream BWF tournaments on the big screen on downstairs. I would always, from upstairs, I would hear her scream and shout whenever there was like a really good rally and her favorite players are playing on court and playing really well. And I guess another motivator for me is that I would love to be on that screen that she's watching. I feel like she'd be really, really proud. Also for me, that's more of an external motivation, but also internally, like you said before, the bond that I felt like I've created with badminton, I think I can take it further. Because my whole life, I feel like I never took it seriously to the point where I think I could be one of the top players in the world for it, until last year and this year, where I worked on myself. I trained a lot in badminton and outside of the court to make myself really, really believe that I have what it takes to break this barrier. And there are a bunch of motivators. Like, I'm a huge mama's boy, so doing it for my mom is always a big motivation too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, sure. And when you talk about these goals that you're having and the belief that, look, you do have what it takes to be world class and top 20, top 30 in the world, how do you feel about the perceptions? And we touched on it briefly as to potentially the perceptions around you being a badminton player in the US, and potentially someone saying, oh, badminton, that sport's just kind of like a backyard sport or just for fun, or That's one side of it. And then the flip side is, oh, you're from the US. How can you do well? Why do you have the right to do well? You don't come from a country that's dominated by badminton, or where badminton is a big sport and a big deal. How do you manage that? And what do you feel about that perception? So the first perception, of course, being from non-badminton players thinking, oh, is badminton even a sport? And then moving over to badminton players thinking, oh, Vincent's from the US. What can he do? What will he ever be able to do? What do you think about those? Because they're definitely things that a lot of countries like the US, like Australia, maybe Canada and the other Western countries, especially where badminton's not very well known, where those two kind of mental barriers do come into play for a lot of the players.
Yeah, those barriers that you talked about, we'll talk about the first one being the misconception of the sport in general in the US. I don't know how many times I've faced my own friends saying, isn't badminton just like a girl sport, or isn't it just
Really?
Something very non-athletic? Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically say stuff like that.
Yeah. And Vincent, I've had times where, because you've had your fair share of injuries, right? Well, I have in badminton. I've had surgery on my hip. I've had a lot of injuries. And then some people were saying to me, what? You can get injured from badminton? But isn't it just that slow sport where the shuttle goes really slow in the air and it just lob it every single time? But it's just that, yeah, I'll let you talk because that was just my kind of venting and frustration. So sorry for taking that away from you. Keep going.
Oh, no, for sure. I completely agree. Like, I think 99% of both the US and Australia, when they think about badminton, I feel like they picture like, low clears back and forth, and it's really slow and they just keep going as long as they can. I think that's just how people view badminton, or that's how they think it looks like all the time. And it's because they haven't been exposed to anything more than just recreational level play. And yeah, it's really frustrating as someone who is going through one of those barriers right now. And also the other barrier that you were talking about, where a bunch of other people are doubting whether the US can even have a homegrown top 20 player. Honestly, that is another motivator for me. I don't really feel as frustrated with that one because it helps push me. It's like sometimes when I'm training, it's like I say to myself, you can do much better. You can do a lot more than what you're doing right now. You can prove to all these people that think you won't be anything, that you will be something. And so far, that's it really hasn't affected me in terms of like feeling frustrated or anything. But I would say that the first one being the misconception that most people have, it's frustrating because it's such a shame that they're missing out on such an amazing sport. Like, all they've been exposed to is maybe the more popular ones in the US would be like soccer, basketball, baseball, but they haven't seen the potential of other sports. And I think it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, completely agree with you, Vincent. And the other sports are certainly very great sports as well. But yeah, sometimes, especially in Australia as well, I'm sure you feel this, it's disappointing that, you talk to someone about the sport that you love and you're so passionate about, yet they're thinking of something completely different.
Yeah, for sure. And, a good example would be of someone who overcame, or who was in the 99% who jumped into the 1%, would be someone like Badminton Becky, who was also on your podcast before. Before she knew about badminton, she was like, what? I didn't even know that you could, go to a store to buy badminton apparel or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which is like, you really can't blame the 99% for believing in that kind of misconception because they never were exposed to anything else.
Exposed to it.
Yeah. She is, I would say, one of the lucky few who have transitioned into the 1% who knows about badminton in the US. Now she's creating a whole life around it. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, she absolutely loves it. She's obsessed with it now.
She is badminton, is what she told us.
Yeah. Who am I? I am badminton.
Yeah, I love that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really special. And Vincent, talking about becoming a successful badminton player from a country that, where badminton isn't so dominant, is there a reason why you had decided to go down the pathway of becoming a mixed doubles player as opposed to a men's singles or men's doubles player? We often know that, men's singles is a very tough, and I guess most people would describe it as the most tough event, or singles itself is the most tough event. Is there a reason why you went down the mixed doubles path?
Yeah, I think for singles, I really liked different aspects of singles, and I also really disliked certain aspects of singles, such as sometimes it could just be purely who's more of a physical athlete rather than someone who's more skillful or tactical. But also, if the level is close enough, you can outsmart your opponents if they're a lot physically stronger than you. You can still, hit shots. You can place them in more tactical spots to make yourself run less and them run more. And so it would still give you an edge. So I guess I like the tactical part about singles, and I like the speed aspect of men's doubles, where you can have rallies where you just keep driving with each other and it's all about speed of the racket instead of speed of the legs or anything else. And you don't really see that much in singles. You don't really see them driving back and forth. I guess I went down the path of mixed doubles because it was the combination of what I liked about singles and what I liked about doubles. You can still have the fast-paced, driving rallies in mixed, but you can also have a lot of tactical placements because the girl is always trying to rush up to the front. And so you can always either keep her in the back, or you can, if she's coming forward, you can put it in the back, or you can put it in the front faster than she can, anticipate and run forward for it. So I think ideally I would want to be playing both mixed doubles and men's doubles, kind of like a lot of players right now, like Yuta Watanabe. But I would say mainly if I were to choose one event, I specialize in mixed doubles because of the combination of both singles and doubles.
Great. And if you were going to model yourself against any of the top mixed doubles pairs, who would you say that you look towards? So if you're doing video analysis or looking at a certain pair, how do you see yourself and your mixed doubles partner playing like? Like, what's your style like?
I would say my style is more of a controlled pace, not really going all out all the time, like maybe someone like Zheng Suwei.
There's not many people that can play like him.
Yeah. I can't even begin to imitate it. But I would say Praveen Jordan, definitely nowhere as skilled as him. I would say just overall, he chooses wisely which times he will snap it all of a sudden. I feel like a lot of players don't have that decision making where it's you're holding back, and then once you find the best opportunity possible, you hit a killer. And I feel like that's exactly Praveen Jordan's style.
Yeah, and he certainly does it really well. And when he does get the opportunity, it's amazing to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
He just punishes.
Yeah, with the power and the skill. But you wouldn't necessarily say he's moving really, really fast on the court, but he's still hitting every shot over, and he's hitting a lot of winners. I think he hits one of the most winners in mixed doubles that I've spectated.
Okay, awesome. So modeling yourself against Praveen Jordan, that's an awesome role model to be looking towards, and a lot of work to get there because he is an awesome player. Now, when you look at, say, getting yourself to that kind of level and the current system in the US for badminton to develop players of that caliber, what's the US system like when you're trying to become a professional badminton player? And what's the system like? What's the infrastructure like? And how do you see it working, and how do you see it needs to be improved?
Yeah, so I don't have much information about the actual infrastructure and system that we have in the US. We have an organization called USA Badminton, and all I know is that the board members in USA Badminton are constantly changing. So I wouldn't think that there's not really a solid foundation there, because different people have different views of how to, navigate some sort of program. And having a board where your members are just constantly changing, the ideas will never align that way. And so far, as someone who is affected by how well they do their job, I can say that we are headed towards the right direction right now, but we are starting from almost nothing, because like I said before, every time you replace your board members, it feels almost like you're starting over again with new ideas, new implementations of where the money should go, or, et cetera, et cetera. So in terms of an opportunity to grow USA Badminton, I think it has to start with the badminton programs that universities will have. And right now, I'm talking to a coach by the name of Dennis Christensen, and he has a goal that really aligns with mine. He's trying to raise a collegiate team for the top 8 US players to play and travel full time and also go to school at MIT. And the reason why I think that's a step in the right direction is because most players that we have in the US, they quit after high school because they don't have incentive to keep going with it. And if they are paid to train and go to MIT, I think it would keep a lot of the potential professional players that would have given up because they didn't see anything for them afterwards. And Dennis's dream of creating this program is actually very, very within his reach. And I won't say too much about it, but he says that he can get it running pretty soon. And if that happens, I think my whole life will change. And I think all of USA Badminton will change for the better.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like a fantastic opportunity for the sport. So we wish him the best of luck and hopefully you can have some involvement in that as well, Vincent. And in terms of, I know you didn't really comment too much on the system and infrastructure of badminton in the US, but are there any opportunities for, say, a country like ours and the US that you think could improve the future success for these countries?
I would say maybe like definitely have a national center or a national team with a head coach that is seeing everything through. And honestly, right now, the current situation in the US, we have a lot of talented players, but they're all spread out around the states. So, you know, our Thomas Cup team had a lot of people from the East Coast, a lot of people from the West Coast, and some people from everything in between. And so if your best players are all spread out, it's kind of a shame that you can't have them practice with each other because they need the sparring as well. They need to have people around their level to bring each other up. And so when you guys are all training separately, maybe sparring that's not quite there, then as a country, you're going to improve slower than people who do have national centers, who do have all these top players training together. And so what's the situation like in Australia? Do you guys also not have a national team like us?
We do have a national team, but it's just tricky, just like the US. Australia's a very big country, not as big as the US, but it's really hard to get everyone to be in a central area. So there's actually, from our side of things, there's a lot of restructuring and a lot of changes going on at the moment now as well. And we've just got a new CEO who is on a podcast with us. And he's talking about decentralized versus centralized training programs and training centers and the advantages and disadvantages of each. But yeah, with how big the country is, getting everyone into one city from so far away is a bit tricky from that side of things. So we do have a national team, but it's not centralized at the moment.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
We're basically almost in the same boat.
Yeah. Okay, Vincent. Just moving on now to what you've learned in your badminton career. So I know that we've heard the story of how you got started and what badminton really meant to you while you're growing up and how you have all these amazing goals of being the top badminton player in the world. In your journey so far, has badminton taught you anything that you can take with you for the rest of your life and apply to anything else in life as well, not just badminton?
Yeah, I think the main part about traveling and seeing all these different cultures is you really come back home very humbled and you really appreciate what you have at home. You know, for example, in 2019, I went to Africa maybe, I think 3 times for a lot of their tournaments. And I went to South America for a lot of their international series. And a lot of these third world countries who don't have it as good as we have it here in the US or in Australia, it goes to something as simple as having running water or hot water to shower. Because it was, especially when I went to Nigeria for an international challenge, I had to order hot water for the shower and it would be billed to the room. And when the hot water showed up, it came in like a tea kettle. And I was like, how do I shower with this? And they showed me that you just run the tea kettle on like this very thin pipe, and the pipe would slowly drip the hot water down, mixed with a little bit of cold water. And that's how they would shower every single day. And it was something so simple like that, when I came home, I was just like praising my shower head and everything, almost everything I had, basically. Every Thanksgiving, we're told to be appreciative and say thanks to what we have, but not many people will actually truly feel the gratefulness until they have it taken away from them. And so that was something that traveling for badminton has taught me. I can really see on a deeper level and appreciate on a deeper level. And I think it's made my life much more enjoyable because there's not a day that goes by that I'm like, oh, whatever, I have this. It's more like, wow, I have this. And I'm so grateful for everything. And I think definitely if I hadn't traveled for badminton, I would not have reached that deeper level of understanding.
I think that's really powerful in itself, that it's just the perspective, isn't it? Once something's taken away, then you do really appreciate having it. And it's just being able to remember that, especially at times where you do feel like you're losing out on something because you don't have something that you want, to come back to the fact that you do have many things that many people in the world would love to have, and you just take it for granted. So I think that's a massive one. So thanks for sharing that insight with us, Vincent.
Yeah, no problem. And also, if I may add, the lesson that I learned specifically from badminton and not just traveling would be, I feel like the amount of stress and the amount of discomfort that I can take has increased greatly because of badminton. Like there's so many times during training where I'm just so physically exhausted and I'm so uncomfortable in that sense, but I know that I have to get through it to improve and become a better badminton player. And so I really think that can be applied to other areas of my life. Maybe if it's not physical exhaustion, it could be mental exhaustion. And I feel like I have become a more patient person because I am able to take a lot of stress from other people, from school sometimes, really anything that would cause me to be uncomfortable. And that threshold of like being able to tolerate it has increased because of badminton for me. Because if I can get through that tough training session that I felt near death through tiredness, I think I can get through this, 2-hour long meeting with my classmates or with my coworkers on anything. So
yeah, it just really helps to build that resilience up. And yeah, that's awesome. And another thing to take from badminton, because it's such a great sport that keeps giving us so many amazing things.
Yeah.
So Vincent, we've covered quite a lot in this podcast, all things from why you started and what the deeper meaning of badminton was for you, to things about the challenges in the US and how the US and countries like the US and Australia can develop players that do compete and they're at the top of the world stage as well. So it's been a really good discussion, and there may be some questions out there or some listeners might want to follow to see how you're going in your progress, in your journey, in your badminton journey and in your life. So is there a way that they can keep track of you and follow you?
Yeah, you could just, if you want to follow my progression, I'd probably post the most updates on Instagram, and it's just at Vinson.Chiu, which is my just full name. And I am more than happy to respond to anyone that has questions.
Great. And we'll put your social media handle in the description as well for those who might not know how to spell Vinson Chiu. So Vincent, this has been a really thoughtful episode, and we do really appreciate that you've opened up, certainly along the deeper reasons as to why you love badminton and why you pursued badminton as a child and what that means to you and your family. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Vincent.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the podcast, the goal that you guys have to spread badminton around the world.
Thanks, Vincent. We really love having a chat to professional players like Vincent and players that may just play socially but just love the sport as well. So for those of you that do love the sport, please share this episode with your friends, family, anyone you might think would get any benefit from this episode as well. And thank you so much to all those of you that have tuned in today.
Now, if you want to get in contact with us at the Badminton Podcast and Volantwear, you can easily do so on our website, and that's www.volantwear.com. And on our social media, we've got Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, all those things. You can follow us on our social media handle, Volantwear, VOLANTWEAR. We're always keen to hear from you about feedback, about what you'd like us to answer in podcasts or ask different guests on podcasts. And we also have lots of resources on our website, such as blogs, product reviews, etc., that can help you in your game and in your life as well. So make sure you do check us out. And we're really excited to see you on the next episode. So thanks again, Vincent, and we'll see all you listeners again soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by Volant, the most versatile badminton apparel you'll ever own.